Thank you, Mayor. The presentation today, well, let me step back for just a moment. The wayfinding signs have been on the docket for a good while at this point. That's something that the Commission's talked about, discussed, we briefed you on for a good while, and we finally got to the point where we can make some headway. And I have to, give a ton of credit to Hunter Reagan, our engineering department, for taking this project on and dealing with the state and some of the different issues from font and different problems that you face to make sure that everybody's happy and the signs are congruent with the laws and rules that we have to follow. But he's done a great job. We've got two phases here. The first phase he's talking about today will be the wayfinding, which will get you from the bypass into the downtown. And then we'll have a second phase, which will be your smaller pedestrian signs. And I'll let Hunter speak to the wayfinding and the process they've been through in the last couple of years.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Hunter Reagan. I'm an engineering technician with the Owensboro Public Works Engineering Department. So the purpose of wayfinding signage. The goal with the wayfinding signage is to work as a coordinated and continuous system of signs designed to direct tourists and other road users to significant destinations within a community. Currently, there are brown signs scattered throughout town, such as one shown here. These signs were previously placed by the Kentucky Transportation Department and are no longer being replaced and maintained. The state is now encouraging each community to develop and adopt their own community wayfinding signage program. During the initial design stage, we worked with BFW and to figure out the points of interest with highest priority and location of each sign. They also assisted with the development and the bid documents of and the state right-of-way encroachment permit. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet regulates the placement of the wayfinding signage through this encroachment permit. Basically, this tells us where it's okay to place each sign in the state right-of-way and make sure all signs meet MUTCD traffic control regulations. A few items we had to review with the state are maintaining a maximum of 3 destinations per sign, the sign's color and font size, and the pictograph size. And then we also had to review each location in the field to confirm that there is adequate spacing and between the regulatory, warning, and guide signs that have higher priority to drivers. Here's an example of the center post placement sign. At this time, we're not going to be able to reveal this pictograph that would be at the top of the sign. There will be a ceremony in the near future revealing this symbol. The back of the sign is shown here on the right with different bluegrass instruments. There's a guitar, a banjo, and a violin. The sign's material will be retroflective. Like other signs seen at night, this allows light to reflect back to the drivers and increase the visibility of the sign. The signs will have an overall height of 15 feet with a sign blank size of 8 feet by 6 feet. Here's a map showing the overall location plan. In the purple stars, it shows the primary locations. The secondary is shown in the yellow, and then the tertiary is shown in green. The blue stars indicate areas that are currently signed individually, but will be replaced with matching wayfinding signs. There will be approximately 42 wayfinding signs installed during this project phase. Here's another map showing just primary signage location, as these are the first signs that drivers will see while entering the city limits. They'll be located on the outer edge of Owensboro and along US 60, former bypass. This is an example of one of the primary signs. These are the 3 destinations that, as you enter Owensboro, that the drivers will be seeing. It'll have downtown, convention center, and the International Bluegrass Museum. Here's the map showing the overall location plan for the secondary wayfinding signs. These will be signs that are located in the inner city limits and will highlight different areas based on the location of where you're driving at that time. And next is an example of a cantilever sign post placement. These will hang over the sidewalk. They'll have an 8-foot clearance between the elevation of the sidewalk and then the bottom of the sign, so there won't be any issues with pedestrians potentially running into that. These will be used to limit the right-of-way or the construction limitations at certain locations throughout town. Here is the overall location plan for the tertiary wayfinding signs. Tertiary signs will be mainly located in the downtown corridor. And then there's an example of a tertiary sign, and those are some of the downtown destinations that will be covered on those signs. On the next map, this is the overall location plan for the individual wayfinding signs. There's a total of 5. Fisher Park and Green River Distilling Company currently have their own individual signs. We'll be updating these signs to match the new wayfinding signs, and that's what they'll be looking similar to. For construction schedule, we're looking at bid advertisement mid-December, and then bid opening January of 2023, and then construction to follow spring of 2023. Any questions? Thanks, sir.
I'd like to add one comment on the logo we'll be presenting to you at a later date. This was developed in basically cooperation with the Bluegrass Museum, the CVB, the Chamber, and then our own staff as well. So hopefully you'll be pretty pleased.
Hunter, what sign do we have when you cross the bridge? Was it green or? So if you're coming from Indiana across the Blue Bridge.
I believe it's a green guide sign. Are you talking on the Indiana side?
Yeah, well, coming from Indiana to Kentucky.
I think it is a green. Welcome to Owensboro. I'm not sure at this time. We'll have to look into that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
One quick. Hunter, my question is, with some of these signs, is it legal to have like a corporation be a sponsor with the tagline at the bottom? Is that doable to maybe handle some of our cost on this?
It's not. They have to limit it to the destinations because you don't want to create more distractions for driver as they're driving, because there's only so much time that a driver is able to take in information as they are driving, and they
Depends
like
on
to
how
limit.
good a driver they are, though.
Yeah, and that's that also. So they're trying to limit that with having just 3 destinations. But
Okay, so we couldn't do sponsorships?
no
on that.
sponsors.
Okay.
It's clearly. What's that? Oh. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, downtown holiday events. Public Events Director, Mr. Tim Ross.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, wanted to give you an update about the holiday Christmas activities that we have coming up. We've done a pretty good job here in Owensboro over the last years of building a handful of signature events that we're known for. Our local citizens can enjoy those, draws visitors from out of town, and one of the times that we didn't really have a signature event or a set of activities, it was around the holidays. So last year, we decided to take that on and try to rebrand it. There was a lot of activities taking place, but not a kind of coordinated effort for that. And we thought it needed some foundational pieces. And so we started last year with an event with the lights that many people are now familiar with along the riverfront, and then the Energy on Ice is kind of the foundational pieces to draw folks regularly. And then we can highlight, marketing partnerships with some of our downtown businesses that were already doing Christmas activities anyway. And so we're building on that this year. It was received really well by folks last year, and so we're building on that. But we want to lengthen the amount of time that we're doing that, rather than doing it just for those 3.5 or almost 4 weeks in December. Here, Christmas starts in Owensboro a little bit earlier than that, and so we decided to lengthen that out. So this year, we're unveiling just a different name with it, Hometown Christmas, here in downtown Owensboro. And so that's going to kick off in just a few weeks on Friday night, November the 18th. Kind of a random date for if you're not familiar with Owensboro, but the very next day is the Christmas parade that'll be returning. So we decided it was probably a good time to do it. So we will do the Christmas tree lighting with the Kentucky Youth Chorale like we traditionally do, and light that tree down along the riverfront on Friday night the 18th at 5 o'clock in the evening. And then the Dancing Lights show will take place nightly this year rather than just on the weekends. So from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every 15 minutes, there'll be a different song that pops on, or rotation of songs that pops on. And then all of the lights along Veterans Boulevard that we've expanded now to add lights there, as well as around the fountains and synchronizing with the bridge lights. So that'll take place nightly now, this season from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then the very next night, like I referenced on the 19th, is the annual Christmas parade that starts at 4:30 And that group's done a good job of getting the word out a little bit earlier that they're going to be returning, and we've got lots of folks calling to get information about participating. So we're looking forward to a good Christmas parade from their group. And then we'll do holiday photos that night as well. We added that last year just as an opportunity for families to come down to the river and capture some family photos with some professional photographers in a couple places. And there were hundreds of families that participated in that last year. So that'll be back that night, kind of right at the end of the Christmas parade for several hours that evening once the parade is done. And again, lots of activities. I'm not going to touch on details from every one of these because there's dozens and dozens of them, but just kind of hitting some of the highlights. That next weekend during Thanksgiving, on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, Energy on Ice kicks off. And so Jeff and his crew over at the convention center will have that going every single weekend from Thanksgiving weekend through the New Year's. And Holiday Hustle, a new 5K run this year. The Chambers got their Shop Small event that Independence Bank helped celebrate. And then Friday After 5 added some activities every Friday night down at the Holiday Inn, and they're calling it Christmas at the Inn. So Friday After 5 will have live music. They've got an igloo. They've got numerous activities that'll be at the Holiday Inn every Friday night in December. Good partners with River Park Center, Bluegrass Museum, the Science Museum, so many activities there. CareNet has done this reindeer run. It's got hundreds and hundreds of runners that first Saturday in December. Just like I mentioned, Science Museum, Bluegrass has got a lot of activities. Nutcracker, a tradition that first weekend of December on both Saturday and Sunday. Science Museum, again, River Park Center, numerous events. Hot Chocolate Hop's one we've done for several years now. There's typically 12 to 15 different restaurants downtown that do signature hot chocolate drinks, so you can enjoy those both Friday and Saturday night, and there'll be a listing on the website with all the different locations and what their featured drinks are. Again, more activities every weekend, and there's some shows during the middle of the week over at the Bluegrass Museum and River Park Center as well. Santa Sweets, just signature desserts at all those same downtown restaurants, and again, we'll have a listing on our website for that. And then some shows to finish up the year, a good New Year's Eve party for the kids, noon Year's Eve over at the Science Museum. So dozens of activities throughout the season, but it starts off on Friday the 18th with the tree lighting. And again, those dancing lights will be nightly from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we hope you come down and enjoy it. And the goal is that all the locals enjoy the Christmas activities to get in the spirit. And when you have family and friends come into town, hopefully you bring them downtown too to enjoy some of those, or some of those activities before and after you go to the Nutcracker or before you go to the show at the Bluegrass Museum. So that's just a quick highlight, but you can get the information on our website, owensboro.org/Christmas.
Well, it's a great town, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Good job, Tim. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the fallen firefighter memorial, Lieutenant Andrew Bell.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrew Beal from the Fire Department. I'm here to talk about the fallen firefighter memorial that was held October 5th this year, and we had 4 of our own that were honored. I have a little slideshow I'm looking forward here.
We got the boss coming.
Okay.
So am I supposed to call you commander instead of lieutenant?
You can call me whatever you want.
Well, I have a few.
I've been called a lot worse than that. So.
Open forum for jokes. Anybody got one? How about you, city manager? Thought you may want to have those chicken jokes you was talking about there.
Mr. Bell, I'm just curious how you came about with the fallen firefighters information. Where do you find that?
Well, it kind of was an offshoot of this history project. I talked to a previous work session, came in and talked about the history project, and I was doing some digging, and I thought, well, let me check the state website and see who we have in the past who's been killed in the line of duty. And up until Walter Freeman, who died in 1985, we didn't really have anybody before. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy that we didn't have anybody before 1985. And then I started going through a lot of these internal documents and found 4 different people that we had over the years that had never been honored anywhere. So I kind of reached out to the people at the state level, and they said, yeah, send us what you have. And we had 4, 2 were medical emergencies and 2 were killed actually in fighting fire. So, and every year at Frankfort, it's a multi-agency event. They honor all the firefighters that were killed in the line of duty around the state. And 10 firefighters were honored this year on October 5th. The chief, myself, and another lieutenant, Brian Roberts, went up to Frankfort to be present. And actually, we had 4 of our own that were honored, and we had some that were as far back as the 1920s, and then the one that was the latest that hadn't been recognized was from 1954. And we had our very first one, John Thornberry, who died in 1927, still had family that was actually lived nearby Frankfort, so they had somebody for him. It was like a great-great-grandniece, and then there was actually the granddaughter of our last one, Uri Westerfield, that died in 1954, and his granddaughter came from Destin, Florida, to come up to, because she was a year old when he was killed. So it's pretty wild that you still have some of these hometown connections from, 100 years ago and up to, 60 years ago. And this is a list of everyone that was honored this year. There were 10 around the state. And kind of zoom in, and here's the list of all the ones we have over the years, and we have 7. Firefighter John Thornberry died fighting a tobacco warehouse fire in 1927. Captain Church Guthrie died in 1928 of a stroke, like right inside the station, just dropped, and they couldn't get him back. Firefighter Peter Cooper, he worked at Station 1, and he had a medical emergency. They found him in the engine bay. And couldn't get him back. And then Uri Westerfield, there was a fire at Green River Steel offices, and he died a few days later of smoke inhalation. And the following 3 had been honored previously. Chief Walter Freeman had a heart attack on duty, and more recent we had our training battalion chief, Dave McCready, and Jeff Millay, that both died of occupational cancer. And as you can see, it was a multi-agency. You've got the union, the fire union, you've got the fire chiefs union, fire commission, the city and county of Frankfort. It's a pretty big deal. It's full-blown with bagpipes and Class A uniforms, and it's pretty squared away event. And if you get a chance to go see it any year, it's a pretty big deal. And it's right by the state capitol. It's a pretty nice little memorial. So it was kind of neat to finally be able to shed some light on some of these guys that made the ultimate sacrifice on duty, and get them the honors that they deserve, and get the family some closure and some recognition. Any questions?
I'll be there tomorrow. I'll check it out.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Anything we need to do for you in your efforts?
I think it's a pretty self-contained little project. It's just looking through old documents. That's pretty well it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is update to tennis courts. Kerry Bodenheimer, recreational superintendent, and Dirk the Dupe Duper, assistant city engineer.
Tag team. Mayor, Commission, thank you so much for having us this afternoon so we can give you an update on the tennis court projects that have been going on since July. I'm going to give you a brief, well, I've got to figure it out in my technology here. There we go. So our current tennis court inventory, we have 29 courts currently within the city of Owensboro, 12 at Moreland Park, 9 at the Owensboro Tennis Complex, 4 at Southern Park at KWC, 2 at Dugan Best, 2 at Kendall Perkins Park, and 6 indoor at Merchant Center Court. And Merchant Center Court is under a lease agreement operated by the Owensboro-Davis County Tennis Association. We have blended lines for 8U and 10U on the courts at Moreland Park, the tennis complex, and Center Court. And if you think of t-ball and high school baseball and the fact that you have a small field and a large field, the blended lines of the 8U and the 10U are very much the same, where you have your full-size tennis court and then you have your blended lines to indicate the courts for the younger players. Then all of the outdoor courts are operated and maintained by the city of Owensboro. Programs that take place, of course, all of our high schools and colleges utilize all the city courts for practices and matches, which is an inordinate number of matches there, and that's scheduled annually each spring and fall through our department. We have adult United States Tennis Association leagues for 18 and over, 40 and over, 50 and over, mixed doubles, tri-level, and combo. And then junior programs that are coordinated by the Owensboro-Davis County Tennis Association, such as the junior team tennis program and tennis in the parks. And just those two programs alone had over 180 youth participate this summer. So our courts are definitely used. Current and future events, we have the Moreland Park and Owensboro Tennis Complex has historically been the site of the Third Region Tennis Championships. Kentucky Wesleyan College for the last 4 years has hosted the GMAC Conference Championships. This past several years, we're typically an annual host of our Kentucky Adult League State Championships. This past September, we hosted the tri-level event. 304 participants, 288 of those participants were from out of town, and we will have that event again in 2023 and 24. And we are currently working with the Tennis Association and Visit Owensboro on a bid to host the Junior Team Tennis State Tournament. That has historically, these last few years, been in Lexington, and we are looking to bring that event here to Owensboro. And that has between 200 and 300 junior participants. And we know our junior events, in addition, tag along siblings, younger siblings, and parents. Economic impact estimated just in 2022 was $859,000. I know that's a formula based, but when we look back at the tri-level event that we hosted in September, those are all adults. So you had 288 adults staying in Owensboro, predominantly from Paducah, Somerset, Louisville, Lexington, adults that go out to restaurants and eat dinners and lunches and shop. So definitely a significant impact to our community. So with all of this activity at our courts, communications took place between the city staff and the Owensboro-Davis County Tennis Association with regards to adding 3 courts to the tennis complex. That was part of the original plan in 2016, but those extra 3 courts were not included. So upon discussions from City Manager Nate Pagan and his staff, agreement was made. It's a public-private partnership to add 2 extra courts next to the north courts of courts 1 through 3. So we'll basically have a part of 5 courts that'll be directly next to Bittle Road. Then the next row back currently has 3 courts. It will have 1 additional court next to it, therefore giving us a second 12th court location within the town. When we host our high school, college, tournament level events, we are required to have a minimum number of courts at one site in order to be able to host those events. So that will definitely be a positive impact for us with those events in the future. So we've been able to combine the new project of those 3 courts and bring it in line with the resealing and the restriping of the existing courts at the Merchant Center Court and the Owensboro Tennis Complex. Typically, they're on a 5-year reseal under the capital replacement plan, and by getting all of the existing 15 courts with the new courts under the same schedule, then moving forwards for future years, that just makes it a much more seamless project than being on separate calendars. So I'm now going to pass it along to Dirk Duper, our Assistant City Engineer and Project Manager for this, and he's going to go over the project with you.
All right, thanks, Carrie. Just like Carrie said, we built 3 new courts at the Owensboro Tennis Center, and along with seal coating the existing 15, 6 indoor courts at the Merchant Center, 9 outdoor courts, and along with our replacement plan, we had 12 courts at Moreland Park that were on the replacement plan as well to reseal. Our budget, total overall budget for the tennis complex was $578,000. Our architect was RBS, and Danco was the contractor to build it. Starting with the existing outdoor courts, you can kind of see on the left you got some stain issues, and on the right you got some asphalt cracking, and when they come in and seal, they'll cover the cracks up and it makes it look almost as new. The 2 pictures, the middle and the left, are when they put in a resurfacer sealer. It's black, and that goes on before on the existing and before you put the no coating. And the picture on the right is picture in the new blue and green at the outdoor courts. And this is the final product. You can see with the picture on the right, the net post, the cracks around it were filled. And then the picture on the left, that almost looks like a brand new tennis court with a ceiling job. With our new construction, we started the weekend after July 4th, and we experienced a lot of rain in July, so it pushed almost the project back about a month due to weather. But in August, they were able to start getting stone down, and at the end of September, the picture on the right, that's our new asphalt surface. In the months of October, they were able to put the new fencing up, and along with putting all the concrete for your bleachers. And later last week, the contractor was able to finish the seal coating of the new courts, and those are the 2 courts next to Biddle Road. Project is almost complete. Fencing, asphalt, and coatings are done. Striping's been done. And now the final work for our tennis courts are just great. Doing final site work, put new seed and straw on the project, and put your bleachers in, and we should be ready to play tennis at the end of the month. With our Moreland Park project, we use Tennis Technology. They have a master agreement with the state of Kentucky to do all tennis courts for resealing. They're based out of Louisville. The total cost was $91,980. This was the existing surface, several cracks, several low-lying areas, and certain courts just had bad asphalt on it. The crew came in and they power washed it. The picture on the right was court 8. They took it down to almost the base surface. And this is a crack repair that they do. They have a specific asphalt crack repair that structurally repairs the asphalt for tennis courts. They put that on after they power washed, and then they put on the new sealer and colored it, and this project is complete and ready to play tennis. Hand it back to Carrie.
So back in the spring, the United States Tennis Association reopened their competitive grant process that I was able to discover. I was very excited. And their grants are for resealing, restriping, and or new construction. They do not do a combination of both. But they do award up to 50% of the project cost, maximum for new construction of 3 courts, which is up to $20,000 max. And then they do anything 12 and over for courts that are being resealed, then the grant max is at $25,000. Those grants may also be matched by the Southern District, which would be an additional $25,000, and then additional grants may be awarded at the state office. So we submitted our intention to apply for those grants in April. We were assigned a USTA project consultant. It's a very in-depth, intense process, I will say that. We've learned a lot about tennis court construction these last several months myself. Huge thanks to Mr. Kevin Collian and Kevin DeRosset with their assistance as well. The process includes multiple reviews, overview of the projects, technical reviews by USTA staff, back and forth with their recommendations and what we can and cannot meet. And some of those recommendations we were able to meet, which included a different type of wrap asphalt base for the new courts to hopefully eliminate some of the staining that you saw on those original courts pictures where it looked like rust stains. That was determined to be the type of wrap that was used. Widening of the entry gates for the existing courts at both the tennis complex and Moreland Park to accommodate wheelchairs for tennis, which are actually wider than regular wheelchairs. And so we've been approved to complete funding application for both of those projects. The funding application for the resealing of the existing courts at the tennis complex and Merchant Center Court. So we've been awarded a $30,000 grant through USTA pending final approval of all the stipulations and completion of the entire grant. We are still waiting to hear from our Southern office and state office on matching grants. So when we get all of that together, we'll be able to do a formal announcement on that, but that's certainly exciting news. And then the application for Moreland Park is currently under review at the head office, and we haven't yet heard whether we'll be receiving any grants for that. So That completes our project for this afternoon. If you have any questions for either myself or Dirk, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you for all your hard work. I think that's outstanding, and tennis is such a great sport. So congratulations to you and our engineering staff, and to Amanda. Great job.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
I assume the responsibility of maintaining and the cost and all that falls on the city. Is that correct?
It does, Mayor. We budget that every year in the replacement plan for those costs that are expected and known. Now, we did make some adjustments to the rates that we charge some of the user groups, the schools in particular, because over the years, a lot of the school projects and school tournaments, practices and things have migrated to city facilities, which has caused excuse me, the level of play, the volume of play to increase. And so we have adjusted those rates that we charge them appropriately. I would also like to add, Mayor, that excuse me, that of the project for the approximately $450,000 project to build the 3 additional courts at the tennis complex was a partnership between the city and the tennis association, to where they had a donor step forward to contribute $200,000 to that, and then the city, we did through a budget amendment, added another $250,000 for the $450,000 project budget overall. So appreciate the continued good partnership with the folks at the tennis association. They are definitely good partners that we have a great relationship with.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good report. Next item on the agenda is the city project lists, of which we're trying to get a copy as we speak.
While we're waiting for Beth to come back, Mayor, I'll just add that when you get that, of course, it was in your packet as well electronically, so hopefully you had a chance to review. But we did add a new project there on the Parks Master Plan. If you remember back to the budget discussion, and the approved budget included an update or an updated or a new Parks Master Plan. So that process is initiating now. So that's been added to the project list. That's really the only specific comment. Other than that, happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Did we get the batting cages done at Fisher Park? Amanda?
I wish I could say yes, but no, sir, we haven't. So we've received the bids in. We only had one bid, and it was well over budget. So right now, we're looking at some options, 3 options. Do we want to can the project and hold those funds for another use? We're also looking at what we can do in-house. What would the cost be if our staff were to do the concrete work and also do the install, the frame of that structure, instead of contracting a third party in to do the install? So we're doing some things right now to look in and see what our options would be. And then once Stephen Franklin and his team are working on that right now for us, so once we get that information back and we're able to analyze that, then we'll be able to make a recommendation to the city manager.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And here comes the project list. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Okay, if you got any questions about the project list, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think. I guess just time frame in which some of these things get done are probably the only question that I do have one for the city manager. Could you maybe update the indoor sports facility, where we are on that? I think you did at the city commission, but I can't remember exactly what you said.
Sure, happy to do so. So we have engaged an architectural firm and had a kickoff meeting with that architect last week. And then we continue to engage with our consultant as well. So that project will really begin in earnest really over the next month or two, but it has begun.
Have you decided on the spot for it?
I believe we have, and that will be on our December 6th agenda. There is an update on the TIFs as well, so I'd like Angela to maybe make a quick comment on the 2021 increments for both TIFs.
House Bill 8, maybe?
No, not yet, Mayor. But we did get what we call our final increment calculation letters from the state, and that's where they've gone in and done their own analysis of the activity from each of the 2 TIF locations. And just to remind the viewing audience that the state does reimburse us for property tax, sales tax, and occupational withholding. Payroll tax, the state calls it individual income tax, within the 2 TIF footprints. So we have received, we get 1 check for each of the individual buckets. So there's 6 checks in total to be received from the state. We've received 4 of the 6 thus far. And so for the Gateway TIF, we've been awarded $1,226,031. And so just by comparison, last year we only got $685,000. So the biggest influx of change there was in the sales tax. Like we doubled that. And so that's good news on the Gateway TIF. Our downtown TIF, we pretty much kind of somewhat the same in total. Last year we got $421,000. This year we got $389,000 in total. The payroll withholding went down, of course, with the evacuation of Alorica, but the sales tax downtown went up to make up that difference. So anyway, like I said, we're still waiting for the sales tax checks for both TIFs, at which point then we'll do distributions of those funds accordingly. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Where does that money go? Go back in our general fund, or is there a TIF fund? Or
yeah, good question. The downtown TIF, we have approximately $1.4 million in debt service that could be serviced by the downtown TIF. So having said the 1.4 million, we got 389,000. So that difference has to be subsidized by the general fund. So looking forward to growth. Certainly Big Rivers coming downtown will be a big help to us toward that end. And so for the Gateway TIF, 65% of that will go to the developer out there. 13% goes to the city, 22% goes to regional water, and the city gets to maintain a 2% administration fee off of both TIFs.
So I guess when the Brio project is completed, that's what's going to push us to where we can maybe do a little better.
Are you referring to the third hotel?
Yes,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. That project before Big Rivers was identified as being the single biggest contributor to the downtown TIF revenues. So that has definitely hurt us as far as cash flow, hopefully just temporarily. So, yeah.
Okay. Okey-dokey. Any other questions on the project list? Okay. Hearing none. We are adjourned.